Young Engineers Award, important part for Cibse to recognise emerging and exceptional talent and leaders within the field of building services engineering and in the wider built environment. And the winners' videos for the 2020 competition are available on the Cibse website at www.cibse.org.au. So please do feel free to go and have a look at those videos. The judges felt that the message from one of the finalists, Carolina Mayor Cotopus, was particularly relevant to the 2020 Vision seminar today. So we would like to share Carolina's video with us now.
I'm Carolina Mayo, and I work as an electrical engineer in the built environment team. I work in the data center team in particular with NextDC. Well, as an electrical engineer, my biggest concern is that data centers are currently a big load in the power systems in general. They're also a constant load. They're very hard to handle by the electricity market operators and the transmission operators. And it makes it harder, for example, to have a high penetration of renewable energy, which is something that concerns me a little bit, and I would like to help out. I'm very passionate about sustainability. In my master's degree, I did a thesis that actually made a control system in solar power plants, and I would use 50 megawatt solar power plants, 100 megawatt solar power plants, and I would use them and only the power electronics within them without any batteries or anything else to control the power system and make it more reliable. And that actually works. So after that, I started researching a bit more on solar energy with the Solar Energy Research Center in Chile. And then, well, I came here and started working in data centers. And I realized that they have a lot of potential. And yeah, so now I'm very passionate about what we can do and what the future of data centers can be. The main issue is that you can't really control what the solar input will be, and therefore you can't control the solar output or the wind input or the wind output. And that means that there's a lot of energy in the system, but then that a lot of energy could go down and you're not really controlling the load in that system. That's the stability of the system. It has to always be the same load and the same energy. So it has to be equal. And that's the main problem. But you can do a lot of things to control that, even using renewable energy itself and the power electronics within them or batteries. And I've been talking with a lot of suppliers, and they're saying that a microgrid is, for example, an option. Microgrids are tiny power systems, basically. You could put a tiny power system with a lot of photovoltaics, wind, batteries, and gas generators, for example, and that in a faraway place, and you could power the whole data center only using that, which means that most of the energy there is renewable. I think engineers, we have to be part of the solution.
The future's literally in the engineers' hands. We welcome and encourage the engineers and the universities to come up with ideas and patents and innovations that can help us to save energy, increase reliability, and provide better data centres. This is the infrastructure for our future generations. It's up to the engineers to help make sure it's suitable for our children's children.
Carolina, congratulations so much on being a finalist for the 2020 Young Engineer of the Year. You mentioned that you're passionate about sustainability, new technologies, and problem solving with an interdisciplinary approach, and we can certainly see that from your video entry. So I believe we're going to look to get you up here on the screen stage right now and do a bit of a Q&A session just following your video. And I might just speak a little bit about the Young Engineers Awards as well, so you're all aware of what they are. So it's something that Cibse in Australia and New Zealand does annually. been going for 3 or 4 years now, and they're getting bigger and bigger every year. So we were really pleased with this year's entries. We were aligning with the 2020 vision for a 2030 reality theme and asking our entrants to have a look at novel technologies and approaches to be able to future-proof our buildings and have a look at the planning that we need to be doing now to make sure that our buildings are resilient in the coming years. We were really pleased with the responses as well. So there will be another awards round, again, opening at the end of the year. The session for that is usually towards mid next year. So by July, June, July is our normal timing for an award ceremony. And hopefully by that time we can again return to our usual format and see many of you in person. But I would encourage you to engage with your young engineers in your business and make sure they're looking out for the award ceremony and the entries which open in the end of the year. So do look out for that one. But we do have Carolina, one of our finalists, online now. Welcome, Carolina.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Melanie.
Not a problem at all. Congratulations again. So I will open it up to the crowd as well to see if anyone does have some questions about your entry. But to get us started, I have a couple of questions myself for you, actually. So you did talk a lot about use of renewables in the data center market and how that's something that you can see becoming more and more of a focus for that market. How far off do you think we are from seeing more renewable energy use, such as microgrids, in the data center market? And what steps do you think it will take to actually get there?
Well, for that question, it's good to talk about the biggest consumers of data centers. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they all have been talking about how they want to be carbon neutral or even carbon negative in 10 years time, 5 years time. So really there's a big incentive to have renewable energy and to push the boundaries of what we can do in the data center industry, because nowadays we have 100 megawatts, 50 megawatts of data centers, and we're using diesel generators for backup, and that's, I think, something that won't be acceptable in a future. So really everyone's looking into what we can do to make that work better. Yeah, and on the other hand, I know data centers are trying to connect or make power plants like solar power plants and connect to the larger electricity network, so they can buy power from those power plants. But I think they're also looking into control systems that can make things very interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, it does sound really interesting, and it's excuse me, it's certainly encouraging to see that action and that focus continuing to make its way through all kinds of markets. So a bit more about you. Can you tell us some more about the work that you were doing with the Solar Energy Research Center in Chile?
Sure. So one thing that happened in Chile is that everything energy related was imported, or most of it. So we had hydroelectricity, but everything else, so coal, gas, everything was imported. So the electricity was quite expensive, and so there was an incentive already to install a lot of solar farms, but they were all installed in the north of Chile. It's a radial system, so it's only one line. It's the same that happens here in Australia, and that makes everything a bit difficult. So controlling voltage, controlling frequency, it makes it very, very difficult for the power system operator. So what we did was trying to analyze how we could have a very reliable power system with a very high penetration of renewable energy. And when we say very high, it's more than 60%, more than 70%. And trying not to use other fossil fuel systems. So yeah, that's basically what we did. And well, I was focusing on the stability of the grid in an electrical point of view, but we also had other type of designers. We had mathematicians, physicists doing work on that area as well. So yeah, it was quite fun.
It sounds really interesting, and I think that's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your knowledge, and I'm very sure that we'll be hearing lots more from you in the future. Thank you very much, Carolina.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.